And the lots. And the lots. So that's a separate application.
Okay, thank you for your patience, folks. We'll move on to this point. Mr. Borrella.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, how are you?
Fine, and yourself?
Good.
Kathy, see for us?
Just a couple. We have received approval from the Commissioner of the Department of Transportation for the award of the contract on DOT Municipal Aid 13, and I'm pretty sure the contracts have been sent to the contractor, and as soon as that's done, we'll have a pre-construction meeting and set a schedule for that project. The contractor was told before he even did the project that the work on 3rd Avenue between Maple and Walnut had to be done during the months of July and August to get the work done before school was in session. And I think the other thing I have is, I believe a memo was sent to you from the Borough Municipal Clerk relative to the 2014 DOT road projects. I think everybody got a copy of it. The next step on that, since we received a grant for $225,000, is to pass a bond ordinance so we can start the plans, et cetera, for that project. I guess you all received a copy of the application, which shows the estimated amounts for the 4 streets. The work to be done is on 4 streets, as I said, 3rd Avenue between Walnut and Cedar, which is paving, Beach between West and the Westfield line, which is paving, Hickory, east to Center, which is drainage, and Maple, Spruce to Myrtle, which is paving. So those are the 4 projects we applied for, and the funds were there. All's in our court. That's it.
All right, and do you have anything for Mr. Borrella? Not this evening? Move along.
You want to discuss that next time then, and give direction about which road you want to do? Okay.
All right, and that's all in this,
Yes, you
Yeah,
have to
so-
tell me how much you want to do, and it's all explained in the memo.
okay? Yeah, that's, all right, is everybody agreeable to that? Before we move on, you can look over what you received in the packet. And we can go from there. Oops. Mr. Renat?
Thank you, Mayor. We have 4 ordinances that are on for introduction tonight. I think I'm just going to go over each of them very briefly to give you an idea of what they are. The first one, 14-07, which is titled an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain real property to the Rahway Valley Sewage Authority, is not really selling property to the Rahway Valley Sewage Authority. It's actually clearing up a title defect that was, we discussed this last time, but clearing up a title defect that was created when the Rahway Valley Joint Meeting became the Rahway Valley Sewage Authority in 1951. And apparently, part of the property that the sewage plant is on was never conveyed from the member municipalities of the joint meeting to the Sewerage Authority. The joint meeting was the previous organization, and actually all of the municipalities owned the property together, this particular parcel that the sewage plant is sitting on. Somehow they didn't transfer the property, I don't know why, but anyway, they were clearing up that type of defect. Ordinance 1408 to 1409 are really corrections to the code because both of them provided before being amended, or currently provide, I should say, that both the borough attorney and the municipal prosecutor are paid by salary, which neither office is currently paid by salary and hasn't been for years, so we're just cleaning that up to provide that they're paid by contract rather than by salary. And the last one that has to do with massage parlors is a technical revision that was requested by the health officer because apparently the state now does certain inspections and has certain requirements, and what our requirements overlap with them, and they're now preempted by state regulation. So that's the rundown of the ordinances. I don't think I have anything else to report on, Mayor.
Does anybody have anything for Mr. Arnott tonight?
No,
Long time as well. Ms. Harrihammer,
I have no report, Mayor.
any unfinished business this evening? Anyone think that? New business? No?
Well,
Not ready.
didn't get to our reports yet.
Yeah, I know. Anything down this way? I don't want to.
Yeah,
Hold on, hold on a second.
oh, I'm sorry.
Mayor, Mr. Benaker just walked in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, I invited Mr.
Well, I'm going to ask Ms. Palmer to explain why Mr. Vinegar was invited. Good evening, Mr. Vinegar.
I invited Mr. Benaker to come and speak to council this evening. We don't have the resolutions on the agenda tonight, but the two resolutions that we spoke about last meeting about the, and maybe Mr. Bernard can speak to them, explain them a little better, about the redevelopment that we were supposed to talk about with eminent domain versus not eminent domain. And we were supposed to discuss them tonight. And I had asked Mr. Vinegar to speak to us and educate us a little bit about them. Explain to us which way, just give us some information on them, so we had some information, educated information before we had made a decision on it.
Mr. Vinegar, would you like to?
You're welcome, Ty. And Mr. Vinegar, if you'd like to introduce yourself to our residents, if someone doesn't know who you are and what your position in the borough is.
Okay, my name is Victor Vinegra. I'm a resident of Garwood. I'm an employee of the firm of Harbor Consultants. It's an engineering, planning, surveying firm located in Cranford, New Jersey. I've been an engineer, surveyor, planner for approximately 30 years in the state of New Jersey. And I perform those duties for a number of municipalities and private clients throughout New Jersey. I presently sit as a borough planner for Garwood, and I sit for all the applications before the joint board of the planning and zoning board. Also performed about maybe over 15 redevelopment plans and redevelopment studies in the state of New Jersey. And I have worked with members of council on some of the projects, and also Mr. Nearstad on projects. So, we've done a number of these plans and projects in the state, and been working, helped craft the redevelopment plan, the redevelopment study for the Muse or the Point. In-house with the planning board, we prepared both the Point 1 and Point 2 redevelopment plans. We crafted those and drafted those, and they've been highly successful. The developer has done well by those. The Point cleaned up a site that cost about $1.5 million in environmental cleanup, which is all done with private dollars through our redevelopment plan and our developers agreements. we're currently looking at a number of sites in town. The master plan has designated a number of sites for possible redevelopment. Casale Steel and Petro Plastics are one of those, and Garwood Paperboard. And I think actually, Standard Nickel may have been included, I'm not sure Standard Nickel, but we've discussed those projects in length over the years. And currently, it appears that the owners of Garwood Paperboard and Petro Plastics are under contract with the developer. The developer to perform the large-scale project, they're looking for, they're only under contract, they do not own the land. And they're looking to begin conversation with Garwood to make that a redevelopment area and a redevelopment zone. That includes both the properties on the north side and south side of South Avenue. That includes the properties from the firehouse all the way to the yellow house, which is next to the bank. Discussions with the planning board are a possibility of looking not to stop a project there. It's very common for redevelopment plans to go to finish the block, not to do a new type of architecture or a nice redevelopment project and stop it at a structure that really does not fit in. So it is very common to take the project and complete it through the block. The courts have also recognized that. The courts have recognized that if you're looking to create a redevelopment area, not every parcel of land has to qualify under the standards. There can be a few out parcels to be contiguous to carry the project all the way through. So that is something we should look at. I think with recommendations from Mr. Nierstein and some of the board members to possibly take the project all the way through. Not to say that this developer, the first one to the door, may take it all the way to the end. He may stop, but we may then look at another developer to finish a similar project all the way through. So you have a uniform look. You don't want to be hodgepodge. And that's where, your discussion today now with the change in case law that eventually became changed in statute, requiring now for owners of property to be notified from the beginning. Is there a possibility of condemnation, possible condemnation of the properties and give it to a developer? And that has to be done at your level, and the notices have to be given out. The notices only go to the people who are affected, not a 200-foot adjoiners owners list. So you only notify the parcels of land that are going to be, that we foresee being in a redevelopment area. There's pluses and minuses. I think the plus side of notifying for possibility of taking is that at times, and I've been involved in these projects, they have been stalled. You could have a project that's moving along. It's a 2-year planning cycle to do the planning, to do the plans, to work up the environmental, and all of a sudden the developer runs into trouble. Where the developer is very busy and has too many projects on his plate. And then you deem them, you designate them a redeveloper. They don't perform for the development agreement. You de-designate them, but they own the land. They land bank it. And I've had this happen. So sometimes it's not only, the developer right now has most of these projects under contract. I like having the power that the town can go back and possibly do a taking if the developer doesn't come through. If the developer doesn't come through, he can land bank the property, you de-designate him, he still owns it, and he drags his heels. The borough can now go out and solicit other developers to take over for this developer, and then you have to make a negotiated settlement of it. You have to get 3 appraisals of the land, and the second developer has to pay the appraised value of the 3 appraisals. And it also helps if you have 1 or 2, you can have in one case, one of the properties are owned by a family, and there's currently a contract, but there's no sale yet. And if one of the people in the contract gets cold feet, then the owners know that the town has the powers to go in and utilize the taking. Normally, you don't do it. I mean, out of all the projects I've worked on, out of hundreds of parcels, we've only maybe taken 2 out of hundreds. Because most of the people who own those lands realize they're underutilized, realize that they're in deteriorated condition, they meet the redevelopment criteria, which these buildings currently do meet those. They do have expansive environmental cleanup, so the buildings are worthless, actually the structures are worthless because they're sitting on top of environmentally contaminated property. So to do the remediation, from what I've been told, the buildings have to come down. So they do meet a number of the criteria already for redevelopment. But we're not doing that now, but I like, for the municipality to have the power, if you're gonna do all this work, do hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees for engineers and planners and attorneys, and do all this planning, and things do get stalled. I mean, Asbury Park is a symbol of stalled redevelopment. Elizabeth train station area, that was tied up in court for over 25 years, 30 years it was tied up in court. That's why it was never redeveloped. And there's a number of projects like that. So if those municipalities would have had the redevelopment, the ability to go back in and do a taking, they wouldn't have been empty as long as they were. That's just my opinion on it.
Okay, I've got a few questions.
Hi.
First of all, thank you very much for your time, thanks for coming. Couple of things give me concern in what you said. Eminent domain for a public purpose, if, let's use the example, we have to expand the firehouse because we're gonna put another 1 or 2 engines in there, and we needed to condemn part of the parking lot. That to me is a no-brainer. That's public use. We go ahead, we condemn it, we expand the firehouse. The thing that concerned me was when you said condemn and give to other developers. That's the thing that I want to protect from. That was what the Kelo decision of the Supreme Court of the United States, that was the abuse that they sanctioned. So can you expand upon that? Why would we want to condemn the private property of one owner to give to another private owner? Because if we're going to condemn property for Garwood, for the police station, to expand the firehouse, to expand the EMS, that to me, that's a no-brainer. We go ahead, we condemn it, and we do it. The thing that really concerns me is give to other developers.
Well, the word give is a poor use of words. Nothing is given to anyone.
Selling also. Why should Garwood take from one private owner and give to another private owner?
In the case of one of the properties across the street, that the building's in deteriorated condition and is owned by 4 to 6 family members. If there's 2 of the family members that don't agree, the property will stay in disrepair for quite some time. If it falls within the criteria, they're not given, the eminent domain law is quite plain that you have to get like 3 appraisals. I mean, I'm not an expert on the appraisal section, that's only hired done by council. And then the appraised value is negotiated. And 90% of the time, it's a negotiated settlement because they don't want to go to court. The developer doesn't want to go to court, and the landowner finally says, this is what I want. And it's normally negotiated. It's utilized as a tool because it could be in that deteriorated condition for another 20 years if you don't utilize it. Many towns have utilized it properly, not as a way to do anything auspicious, to grab something. It's to move along development. Now, these people are already under contract, so we wouldn't even be discussing this, but they're already under contract. I like having the ability. It's already under contract, it's moving through, but things in the real life happen, things stall. And again, I think Asbury Park is a perfect example. Things stall. And now, you have an area that was, some lots were sold off, some weren't, and it became just entwined in litigation. So, eminent domain for good reason. I mean, I can't see Garwood with our bonding capabilities, I can't see us going in there and doing a $5 million eminent domain. I really don't see it. I mean, it's nice to know.
You may not know the council very well.
It's nice to know, but, that we have to follow the letter of the law. And again, I wouldn't even be discussing this if the developer didn't already have these, as he stated, under contract, negotiated prices. So there's a value set. I like the fact that in case one of the family members gets cold feet and doesn't want to sign that contract,
that there could be something that we could move it along. I'm not talking about, you know, I saw a big abuse, and I did a little work with it, was Long Branch. I thought Long Branch was a huge abuse. I mean, the Pier Village started out the old boardwalk, started out the old dilapidated amusement area. But it was my personal opinion, and we did some engineering work down there, that as they extended the redevelopment along the coast, they were taking via eminent domain private homes, oceanfront homes, under the auspices of underutilization. And the private homeowners went, hey, we'll become developers, we're well off. And the town says, no, you can't be the developer, so-and-so has to be. That, in my opinion, was why the law came about, is that, oh, this has to stop. And Long Branch was one of the main reasons. They were grabbing properties that were not bladable. It's just they would say it was to continue the project. But we're talking about 2 pieces of property on North Avenue that are quite deteriorated condition, and they have it.
Well, okay, and I appreciate your point, but again, I agree with you that the very abuse that you cite is what is going on by governments. They can go to an oceanfront mansion and they can condemn it, okay? The other thing that you keep saying, get cold feet. Hey, you have 6 members of a family, 2 don't want to sell. That to me is called freedom. That's called the right to own private property. Okay, if I own the house with my wife, I want to sell, she doesn't. Should I enlist Garwood on my side to condemn the property and take it from them? It doesn't, and I just want to finish my point. Why do we need that bludgeon? If 6 people, 10 people, 20, if a commune owns it, it's private property. If all the people don't agree, or there's a majority, supermajority in the corporate bylaws, or it's a family, and there's family stuff as there is in all our families, that's up to them. That's not me and the government. And the final thing is, and what I guess I really object to, we have a stall project, it's called the athletic field, okay? And I can understand there being a stall project here, but everything you described to me as an attorney, that sounds to me as breach of contract, and we can enforce a contract. Again, you're taking this bludgeon and giving it to the government, or suggesting the government has it, to then use it taking in a negotiating point of view. Again, let me just reiterate, let's step back. We want to go ahead and expand the police station, the firehouse, the EMS, and we want to condemn adjoining property, even homes, I'm on board. We'll do it. My quibble, my problem is taking from one private holder that I don't like, sitting in this chair, and giving it to a developer that I like. And that's the thing that's the abuse I'm trying to protect us from. I like to see the government shackled. And the other thing is, you kind of proven my point. If you've seen hundreds of projects and there's only been takings twice, then why do we need it?
I think I was pretty clear on why I think it would be useful to have it in there.
I just want to make sure that the people in the audience know one thing. This athletic field that we're doing right now is in no way, shape, or form delayed. It's all there.
Victor,
Any other questions?
is there a negative aspect to the developer if we do this, if we go eminent domain? Would this developer see this as a negative in any way?
Well, I just briefly spoke with the tentative developer, they're tentative. They state that it would be advantageous, in case there were any delays over time, to have this designated in the fact that eminent domain could be used. And that would be done legally. So the tentative developer who came to the town and who came to one of our board meetings has stated that they, and the question was asked to them. They didn't contact my office. But a phone call came out from my office to their office, stating that this has become an issue before council, and what is their opinion. So they said, Victor, it could help, and then I reiterated, it helps me too. I said, it's done that way, and you don't do anything within 5 years, that it could work against you. And they recognize that. I said, let me tell you, so you're gonna have a time frame on you. If this goes through, we're gonna seek timeframes in a redevelopment agreement. If you don't hit those timelines, you'll be de-designated, and then we can go to bid on other developers. And then the the system would have to come in again, a new appraisal would have to be done, and it could go against the developer. And that's what I liked about the law.
Mayor, I have a couple questions. Sure. Mr. Vinegar, thank you for coming tonight to talk to us about this. A couple questions. So I understand also the potential developer from what you just stated. Do you feel that that's the typical response of developers? Because you've acknowledged that this one is the first one, but may be the last, may not be the last. Do you think that's a typical pulse you read from them?
Yeah, it's always, it becomes the same. They first come into town, they're all excited, they're all excited to go. They want to build a project. They're very excited about the Raritan line becoming a one-seat ride in the future, and Garwood expanding. They read the NJ Transit study that was done. In fact, what's stated, the NJ Transit study has been Garwood's biggest advertisement. Developers are going on the NJ Transit website, they're looking at the study, and they're picking towns along that corridor to develop. That's how the developer found Garwood. They found us.
That's good to know.
Through the NJ Transit study that's on the NJ Transit. And they're going to towns, to Nellens and other towns being approached. So,
Okay. And then one other question. If we were to lose or give up this eminent domain power that governments have, would that be a potential problem for future properties in the town? That if you leave that out for one, you're expected to leave that out for another? No?
Each one's on its own. Again, we had, Garwood Paperboard has been a site discussed over quite some time. We haven't moved on that yet. We were thinking that council actually approved the contract to begin that study. But, and a number of people contacted me about that site. No, each site's standalone.
Okay.
It's just this site came to us sooner because the developer was working on it. And actually, the developer, behind the scenes, sat in on the NJ Transit study. One of their planners sat in, and one of their architects, during the whole process. So they actually had someone sniffing around Garwood a number of years ago. And they've been working on this for a number of years. So they stated that, they don't think they really needed it. I think it gives us more power in case they don't do what they say they're gonna do. 'Cause again, they're under contract. They deliver, they give what they're looking to do. They're gonna now own the land and want X amount. And they can't sit, people do land back these kind of projects. It's done all the time.
That's all I have, thanks.
And Mayor, just one last comment. I was quiet tonight because I've spoken about this before, and I knew council members wanted to hear from Victor, which I appreciate Victor coming. He's actually had many more redevelopment scenarios than I have had. But the one thing I want to get to is the comment in response to Jim. As I indicated the last meeting, I think the main reason we need to do it because there is a public purpose. And that public purpose is what we need, and that is the parking. I feel like I'm Peter Piper picking pickled peppers here, but the public purpose is parking. And I would like to advance the idea of having that eminent domain in the back pocket just in case we need it, to ensure that if this developer, future developer, basically says, no, I'm not going to provide any public parking in this project anymore, then we still have the ability to take one of those properties and use it for public parking. We've indicated many times how much we need it.
Anybody else have any other questions for Mr. Vinegar?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
While Mr. Vinegar is here, Bob, I know I was the holdup, and I'll state that publicly, but were you able to get to those resolutions at all, or not?
Well, no, I just got.
Understood.
I just
No
got
problem.
lots
So
of
we can-
blocks tonight.
Understood. So, Mayor.
Otherwise, I would have had them.
I understand that, I understand that. So, I guess I'll give us 2 more weeks to think about those resolutions. Thank you.
Are you directing Mr. Renan?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
You already was correct. I failed to.
Okay, but are you redirecting him, or are you
He
gonna
doesn't need a redirect, he's ready to do it. He's ready to direct, he doesn't need it.
All right, Mayor, were we back to me on the?
Yes, we are.
I have,
Oh, excuse me, I just had one question. You keep on, shh, excuse me. Just had one question on that. The direction to Mr. Benoit, as I recall, and let me know if I'm wrong on this, was that you were gonna prepare 2 alternate resolutions, one with eminent domain and one without. Is that still, that's all I need to know.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Tina, I saw that we have received an email from American Water, and they had notified residents.
I don't know if I sent it to everyone, did I? Send it to everyone this year?
Okay, I received that.
I got it.
Inquired, I don't believe I sent it to everyone.
You did get that?
I did.
Did I send it to everyone?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, all right, then I did, I'm sorry.
Okay, so, did you receive any concerns from residents when they received that notice?
No,
From American Water?
my office did not.
Okay, good, so,
She did, but my office.
did you receive any concerns from residents when they received, the notices from American Water that work was gonna be done on their block?
I haven't received any.
Okay, so that was a good notice, I thought, so thank you for reaching out to them for having that notice.
Oh, by the way, one of them's my block, so you got it, and I've spoken to my neighbors about it, so, like, we're aware of it.
Okay, good, I thought that was a good notice.
Yeah.
Also, let's see what else do I have. There's 2 resolutions on the agenda tonight, 14, 210, and 211, and they are, no?
Go ahead.
210, 211?
Yep, you're good, you're good.
Okay, they are from Union County Community Development Revenue Sharing Committee. I attended that meeting this week. The mayor asked me to attend. There was $4.8 million distributed at that meeting, and Garwood received $3,000 of that $4.8 million for our hand-to-hand program. But those 2 resolutions that are on the agenda tonight, they asked us to get it on this month quickly. We had no time. Tina did get that and put it on for this month. They are for $5 million in grants. If we don't, the 21 municipalities have to all agree to get it on the agenda for June. If not, the $5 million in grants don't happen over the year. We don't qualify for anything individually, but together we qualify for $5 million. So thank you, Tina, for getting that on so quickly. Also, let's see, I met with Captain Stouffer this week, and we talked about that dumpster ordinance, and you're gonna meet with the chief and work out the issues that you've had, and get that back to laws and license, and then we'll get that on for first reading, hopefully. And Bill, I'm still waiting for you for definitions on that sidewalk signs ordinance, and, oh, we talked about the parking last week again, last meeting, Mayor, and we talked about creating a committee possibly that Bill had suggested of some members of council and, maybe, planning board members and some residents. And I think maybe either the chief or Captain Stouffer or someone from the police would be a good, and maybe even Mr. Venegra would be a good suggestion. Did anybody have time to think about that committee?
I gave it some thought. I would have to speak with Mr. Monagra and the chief and to follow up on that.
Okay. Okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Martin.
Yeah, I have a couple things, Mayor. With some input from, some of our citizens, primarily Bruce, we've been hearing an awful lot about the county, and especially since we've reached the watermark of $500 million in county spending. I think that many of us are in agreement that we should do something. And so I'm thinking that possibly, one of the first things that we might want to do is introduce a resolution to have words instead of just voting at large. At least start with having wards set up. And so I think we should have this vote and encourage other municipalities in Union County to do the same. So I make a motion that we do a resolution for the next meeting to be voted upon for Union County to have ward voting instead of at-large voting. So I'm wondering if there's anybody else on council who would agree with me to sort of kick things off, get the ball rolling in terms of doing something about the ridiculous spending that we have in Union County.
I would second that resolution.
Mr. Renata, excuse me, but is Garwood large enough to have wards by election law?
No, I
We
think he's
can-
referring to
we-
county wards.
It's assumed.
Yeah, it's the
County wards, yes.
I
Oh,
thought
you
the
mean not
motion
our
didn't
voting?
include Garwood.
Yes, for our
County.
voting, for our
Not for
voting.
Right,
Garwood
it
voting.
pertains to the county, correct?
Not for
Yes, for the
Garwood.
county elected officials.
Yeah, for the freeholders. In other words,
Yeah,
divide the
for-
county
Instead of
into
the
wards
wards.
instead of at-large.
Not Garwood.
Right.
No,
Sorry,
Garwood,
misunderstood you.
Garwood could have divided into two wards if that's how it came down, but.
Right.
For the
Now,
county.
boroughs can't have wards anymore. That was
Right.
repealed in, I want to say the 50s. There's only 2 boroughs in the state that have wards.
So the county can? Oh, the county can, not the borough.
But that, you have to get some
Yeah, I don't know what
signatures
the
on
procedure is
all that stuff, but Mike is saying.
I got it. I just
Start rolling,
Yeah.
put something out there.
Let's start by doing
I
that.
would absolutely support that. I think that that's a fabulous idea, Councilman. I just warn you in advance, the freeholders say, what do they say? Wards are for losers.
I don't,
So that's their response to it.
I don't really
That's
give
a
it-
That's a fabulous idea.
damn what the freeholders say, to be perfectly honest with you. I care what we say. And we gotta start somewhere, so I believe that we should do that. So the motion's seconded, so.
I second that.
Okay,
So next
you-
meeting,
You wanna get together and talk about it, and then.
I would like to get a lot more information
Yeah.
on
Yeah, well, I mean,
throwing decisions now.
I'd like to know how the wards work, I mean, how's it all divided up?
It's gotta work better than the system that we have now.
no, there are actual guidelines, and,
Well, whoever has that information, if they can pass that around, that'd be great.
there's, you know, and signatures need to be collected, a certain number. It's been started in the past, so there's
Well, for me, it's
precedent
more
out there.
for the process of what is it all about, okay? What do you want to gain? You know, that's my, just know more about it rather than just say that there's enough, signatures out there that people want it. Well, okay, so what's it about?
But how do the wards work? How are the towns, how are the towns divvied up amongst the county?
Well, I'm not saying I support or I don't support it yet, but I think it's very clear every freeholder election, okay, the townships of Plainfield, Hillside, Elizabeth, Union, and Linden, those 5 municipalities, did I screw one up? Outvote the 17 other municipalities. And without getting a little political about it, I mean,
Right.
that's what happens. And so right now, you basically have 17 municipalities that vote for other candidates that lose every single year because the 6 other municipalities have more votes. And so those six municipalities out of the 21, I'm sorry, I just did my math wrong. It's 15 and 6. So it's six municipalities control. They outvote the 15 other municipalities in the county. So those 6 municipalities control who the freeholders are. So the thing we've spoken about previously was the fact that the county doesn't tell the municipalities what their actual budget numbers will be until after the vote. And that's what we talked about at the last meeting. And Bruce has put forth a draft resolution in that regard. Advance the requirement that the county don't just go with an average, but actually tell municipalities what those numbers would be. That one I support 100%. Second one I'm thinking about.
I would support that one as well, that new idea you're bringing up, something I talked about when I went to one of the freeholder meetings, and it's good to know the number, the real number,
Yeah.
before there's a vote on it, so.
Absolutely. The
And
whole way they work is
Councilman Norton, just one more thing
same.
on that. Just in general, what I would support in that, and I think this goes to maybe what Council President Palmer's talking about, is the general resolution saying to change to a ward system.
Absolutely.
The actual makeup, we're not gonna get into that, and whoever's in, that's just like gerrymandering, whoever's in charge of that cuts it this way or that way. But a general thing saying that what we need some type of ward voting, or maybe a hybrid ward and at large, whatever, the mechanics of it, I'm not so much about the concept I'm not
Right,
for it.
right.
And you may actually need my vote, so you may wanna think like that.
We've bust our asses to try to get this budget to where we can have it under control for our portion of the budget. And we have 2/3 of this budget that we have no control over. It's a feeling of helplessness that I want to help us get out of. The school budget's something completely different, but the budget that we have for our county is obscene. And I think we should start doing something about it sooner than later. And I campaigned on it, and I'm gonna make good on it.
Okay, I believe Councilman Desengatter from Summit has done some initial groundwork and has looked at, because this has come up before, has looked at how the county would be divided with regard to population, just like a congressional district. We just had a change within the assembly districts, et cetera. So he, let me find out from him where, you know, but in the meantime, you can, you know, give it some thought and see what we can do.
I got one more, Mayor. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. The other one is, another issue I ran on during my campaign was the issue of leaf bagging. I personally don't think it's a good idea. I think that, on balance, when I go around and talk to our citizens, it might be better to remove what I consider to be an extra burden that they don't need to shoulder in terms of having the leaves bagged. I would make a motion that we revisit this and that we repeal mandatory leaf bagging. If I can get a second on that, I'd like to see that put on the agenda as well.
Well, I have to say, as actually the only council member still up here that actually voted no to leaf bagging, I would second that motion. It's something that I voted no to last year. My opinion really has not changed on the leaf bagging subject. I feel as though, number one, my main concern is that it still is that extra burden on residents. And even though it's not taking away a service in the sense of we won't pick up your leaves anymore, I definitely think it is reducing it. And therefore, I don't like to see that extra burden placed on residents as their taxes go up. And that's one thing that I hear a lot. Our taxes go up, but our services get taken away. Specifically, the past 3 years, that's one of the issues that I've heard of from residents saying, you know, maybe it's okay for me, but I worry about my senior citizen neighbor that now has to do that. There's people on the north side of town with slightly larger properties in general over the south side of town that could put out 40, 50 bags at a clip, no problem. Same with some residents that live alongside Unami Park. I've heard complaints from that area of the borough as well. Again, I feel it's that extra burden that's really not necessary. It's something I would like to see repealed, so I do second you with that. Also, I would have to say in terms of seeing one season go by with mandatory leaf baggings, as a former councilman up here said, you know, leaves that don't just fall in your yard, of course, they also fall in the street. So I did notice clogged sewer basins as well. That didn't really go away from this issue. Also, I did not, just from walking around town, going to pick up a pizza on a Friday night or going to CVS, I have seen, you know, a lot of leaves in the street. And so the appearance of the town, in my opinion, really did not change too greatly by imposing leaf bagging. We did not see a real savings from it. I feel as though any potential savings we could have had is really a poor trade-off for the service change. So again, it's a lot of the reasons I said last time, but after seeing it through a year, my opinion really has not changed. And so I would definitely second that.
I think that before we have any real discussion on this, we should get the opinion of DPW superintendent and maybe the Streets and Roads Committee.
I'm gonna send it back to Streets and Roads. I'm making mine off after everybody
That sounds fair.
gets done, and we'll see.
If I could just ask, Mayor, does anybody remember how we adopted this to begin with? Did we do it by ordinance?
Yes, yes, we did.
So if we do it, that's one of the ordinance.
Right. Can I, then just a point of order? So is this a referral back to Streets and Roads?
Yes, it
So
will.
we don't, so that
We're in
is,
workshop right now. I have 3 items that
okay,
we're gonna be going back to.
so no resolution then on the next meeting on this?
No, you can't have a resolution to amend an ordinance.
It's gotta be an
You'd have to
ordinance.
decide
Amend the
you'd have to decide that you want to amend the ordinance, and I'd have to prepare a new ordinance.
Gather my thoughts and we'll get down to the end. Councilman Matthews, you have any new business?
Do I have any new business? No, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Mears?
No, Mayor.
Councilman Petrozelli?
Yes, Mayor, I just wanted to let everybody know that, I know everyone received a letter, about the roof over here at Borough Hall above the court office. That had been spoken about a bunch of times between, myself and Fred Corbett. He did have the company go there a few times and, do some patchwork. But it was decided about a week ago that they should come out and do a full evaluation of all of the roofs that are, that we have, within, the borough or that are owned by the borough, because the last evaluation, I believe, was done in 2012. And there were some recommendations, but I guess due to money, we didn't do, too many of them. But that's something that, was even on the radar even before, the letter was actually written. And also with regards to buildings and grounds, I thought I would have something for the spraying of the brook, but the health department just got back to me today with more information that I looked for, so we'll be getting together as soon as we can. That's it.
Councilman Zabisco?
Yes, thanks. And to follow up with Councilman Petrozelli's note about the roof, I know we've spoken about it in the past, but if, I'm very curious as to the results of that survey, but also if it is a capital item type of issue, definitely finance, needs to be put on notice for that, because it's not something that has been brought up as an issue in the past to the finance committee, and I've served as chair for 3 years now, so it's one of those things that I sort of wish was a little bit more on the horizon in the past, if it truly is warranted, or if it is now warranted, we need to know, obviously. Also, I just have one question, just to follow up on something a resident asked me about street cleaning. Councilman Neersit, is that performed monthly? I know the signs indicate that it is, but
It's performed more than monthly.
more than monthly?
Yes.
Okay. And then, if that's the case, I think it might be a nice thing to include in maybe a Streets and Roads report or something to that effect.
Sure.
Because it's something that I've heard of a resident, concerned about the issue, and it would be nice to be more informed with that one.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
All right, before we go on to the public comment portion of the meeting, I just wanted to gather my thoughts a little bit. I spoke to the chief a little bit about parking. I will go back and speak with him again with regard to getting the group together. I think, various people don't want to make it too big, but lots of people to inform.
Right.
So we'll give some thought to what's going on with that. Leaf bagging, I want to refer that back to Councilman Neerstadt. Okay, take a look back at that and give us an idea what the committee's feelings are come next meeting, and, again, also speak with Mr. Corbett. I would recommend that. County wards. Dividing the county into wards would be something like when they create a new district, or we eliminated a congressional district this past year in New Jersey, so there's, and this is also something that's been approached, to my knowledge, a couple times in the past about 15 years, I believe, and at one point there were even signatures being gathered. So, again, I believe it was former Councilman Desingano from Summit who has some preliminary ideas and information, and I can put you to Councilman Martin right now. We'll put it with you and you can speak with him and
Sure.
get a little bit more of an idea, to get some education about how that would work, what needs to be done, because there's actually, and there are a couple of counties that are, divided into wards. Thank you much, very much, Councilman Kelly, with regard to that. And I just wanted to make one correction, because the letter wasn't sent to everybody up here. There has been a little bit of a water problem in the municipal court offices. The letter that I received, I reached out to Councilman Petrozelli, Buildings and Grounds, because I had gone to a former Buildings and Grounds chair, and it obviously went nowhere. Now they have 3 sheets of plastic in the office as opposed to 2. So, again, for the benefit of the rest of council, you know, it was a limited list to have it checked into, and it was Ms. Ariama, and I also copied Ms. Marino on it, because the day the roof was leaking, there was somebody in there from the state. So that's what happened with that. I see you did get a copy of it. Okay. That's what I did with it. We will move along now to the public comment portion of the meeting. If there's anyone in the audience that wishes to address mayor and council, please step to the microphone, state your full name and address. And it would be appreciated if the comment could be limited to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. Richard Kenny, 412 Hazel Avenue. First, I'm going to go off with this eminent domain. I don't agree with that. People that we're talking about have been in town longer than 99% of this council, but that's besides the point. Talking about this project with Casals, is this under contract? Because it's under my understanding that the court awarded for better terms, a trustee of the bankruptcy, and as far as my knowledge is, that has not been agreed upon. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. Has that been awarded a contract?
To whom?
To the developer, for the buying of the land.
I'm not really involved with the bankruptcy, although I believe that I did see an order. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but I believe I saw an order approving of a contract from the bankruptcy court between the bankruptcy trustee and a private entity.
Okay, I'll get back to that.
I'm not privy to what the,
Yeah.
you know, what's going on with the contract, whether it was executed, et cetera.
Okay. The other thing is, I didn't get a chance last meeting to thank Councilwoman Tedisco and her party for doing the budget. I think it came out great. $37 is fantastic. Unfortunately, we can't control the county. Maybe we can work on that, but in the state, but you guys did a fantastic job. Athletic field complex, I think it's coming along fantastic. Might have taken a little longer, but it looks beautiful. I gotta thank everybody up here for all your time and efforts with getting that developed. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Any other residents that wish to comment with regard to,
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bruce Patterson, 35 Willow Avenue. And I'm actually glad you've grown into here for the Board of Ed. Because I'd like to recognize, swing the camera over. No, man, I don't know whose jurisdiction it is, but I was putting out the wreaths in front of the monuments, and the one on the school, there's a brass plaque bolted down to the rock. And somebody took, there's four bolts. Somebody took 2 of the bolts off. And the plaque is very, very loose. I don't know if they were trying to steal it or just kids, vandalizing bolts. But I don't know whose jurisdiction it is, whether it's the Board of Ed.
Board of Ed property.
This was directed to Sue Groning of the Board of Ed.
This is a council meeting. Our next meeting is the 24th. We have a special meeting tomorrow night if you'd like to show
Oh,
up.
and keep in mind that, that plaque could disappear tonight.
I will make Mr. Spiro aware of it, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
have 10 seconds, just.
I do thank Councilman Martin for bringing it up. I did put together a rough draft. It was 3 pages of all sorts of stuff on the county. Towards some kind of resolution, I did, 3 of the council people, Mr. Neerstead, Mr. Matthew, and Mr. Martin, did join in saying, Bruce, yes, please come up with something, and which I did. It's a very rough draft, but I threw everything in the kitchen sink in there. And hopefully we can proceed further. Councilman Martin brought up, the issue of districting. You call it wards, I call it districts. It's
Whatever it is.
basically. But, I could speak probably for hours on this thing, but there is, I think there's 3 out of 21 counties actually do have districting. Keep in mind that actually Hudson County is districted, so even though it is districted, everybody knows the stigma, like Hudson is they can be called the most corrupt county, I don't know. But I think Union County actually took over the stigma. But at this point, it doesn't solve everything, but it's definitely not a partisan issue. I mean, the county likes to paint it as a partisan issue, but we're talking about districts where all the people would actually have a closer voice. The county has been known in the media, which I put in my 3 pages, that they say, oh yeah, the next freeholder will be from Linden or Union or Elizabeth. So they're already basically districting the county freeholders, the political bosses in control. So we do have Democrats, we do have Republicans, we actually have new Democrats. So I mean, there are factions within factions of parties, and they obviously could use a voice too. Hillside has been ongoing with a fight between the Democrats. So there's different factions there. Roselle is the same way. Linden's the same way. There's different factions of Democrats. So this is not just a partisan thing about Republicans and about Democrats, but there's different Democrats. There's actually different Republicans, as we all know too, right? So I mean, this is not partisan. This is actually the people speaking up, and the way that people can speak up is through their mayors and councils of the towns, and you represent us as constituents, and this is a great first step that you are looking at this paperwork, and I'm at the ready. I mean, if you want, we can sit down and rehash what I gave you. I gave you a lot, but I mean, you can rehash it down to what you feel would be best direction to go, and I appreciate you saying that you would support me. So I guess that's it. I mean, I could talk a lot more, but yeah, something needs to be done on the county. All right. Thank you.
Bruce, just one more thing. The way I view that is, that's work in progress. I think it's a great initial document. I think it's a great draft. That's work in progress. But we have to get the ball rolling. We've got to get this thing started, whatever way we can. So I'm thinking that, what do you call them, districts versus whatever. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, keep in mind, that's a major legislative move, the district, the county, which the mayor mentioned. And I think it has been brought up in the past, and the county, like I said, the county does dismiss it as partisan. It is not partisan.
No.
It is not partisan. We're talking about people versus the head. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else have anything else they want to comment on this evening? There appearing to be no other comments from the residents. May I have a motion to adjourn the workshop session? We'll come back in 20 minutes to 9, that's like 7 minutes.